In today's podcast, you will learn three things: the process of integrating educational content into an AI teacher using retrieval augmented generation, in other words, RAG, and training with Llama 2. The importance of technical AI in the context of digital education and how human oversight ensures the quality and integrity of lessons.
Welcome to the OTech Talks podcast, where it's all about working on technologies. You will hear the latest tech information, and your host, Kashif Manzoor, brings together product overviews, how-tos, best practices, tips and tricks, and troubleshooting techniques.
Welcome to Open Tech Talks.tv. Today, the session number is 126. And if you are new to the show, the Open Tech Talks is your weekly sandbox for technology insights, experimentation, and inspiration with the primary objective of learning and sharing. Your host, Kashif Manzoor, is with you. Thank you so much for joining and listening this podcast. Today, I'm going to talk and host two wonderful guests. But before going and inviting the guest speaker, let's have some context to it. As with the artificial intelligence is booming, every organization, every business, and even our personal lives are impacted. Impacted in the positive sense that everyone started using ChatGPT and Bard to get creative ideas for a text, to generate an images, or even nowadays short videos. That's all being impacted with the AI. And AI mean not only the chat GPT or that. AI has a wider spectrum. So today, I never thought about it that we will get an AI teacher. And that's the topic for today. As the education is another sector where digital learning or through the online learning or through innovative ways of teaching the kids or maybe the university students can be achieved. Imagine a classroom where your teacher knows precisely how you learn best, can answer your questions instantly, and is available 24/7. Sounds like a dream? Well, it's quickly becoming a reality. Joining in this episode is thought-provoking for you, as I'm gonna take on as a guest speaker today who are behind the idea of building a Teddy AI for kids and an AI teacher for all the students. And as I've recently gone through the formal education program, 2.5 years, where we need to get instant feedback from teachers. And that's a new concept with the usage of large language models or a generative AI, and they have achieved it. They have already done it. How to transform the lives of the students, how to help them with the AI at this point of time. So whether you are driving to work, on your morning run, or just relaxing at home, let's get ready to explore the incredible world of AI teaching tools. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Let's dive in. Welcome to Open Tech Talks.tv, and today is Sunday. That's important thing, and my guests are also joining me on Sunday. So it's mean they want to spend time with the audience like you, so that they can share something which is more important than spending time on the weekend with family and all that. So let me welcome Dr. Pauldy and Dave Aditya. Welcome to the show. And if you can introduce yourself to the audience, that will be really great on the weekend.
Pauldy, why don't you go first? I was just about to say the same thing. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Pauldy Otermans. I'm one of the co-founders of Otermans Institute. I'm an educationist and also a cognitive neuroscientist. That's my original background. That's me in very short term. Dave?
Good, thank you. Yes,
And
Dave.
hi, everybody. It's very good to be here on a Sunday, as it was mentioned. My name is Dev Aditya. I am the co-founder of Otermans Institute as well. I look at the AI side of the organization. And along with that, I also look at the business side of the organization. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So then, walk us through what have you been doing over the last maybe 5, 10 years, and how you arrived to this Ottoman Institute, which is primarily focusing on the backbone as an AI. So maybe whoever want to start, Dr. Pauldy, you or Dave, walk us through individually that how you landed.
Sure, yeah, I'll start and Dave, feel free to chip in or add on to what I said. So we started our organization, Otermans Institute, in 2020 when we started to teach underserved and unserved populations globally. And when we had our first MOU with one of the state governments in India, COVID-19 happened. So, of course, we had to rapidly move to digital. So, trainers, everybody went digital, the learners, the trainers, and we rapidly scaled to about 11 countries in the scope of, I would say, 9 to 10 months. And then we wanted to grow further, but what was the issue is the quality assurance with the teaching. It's very difficult to maintain the right quality and standards for each of the trainers, the training, to ensure that the students have the best experience possible. So we thought that, well, how can we scale this human teacher? And we thought about the word artificial intelligence because humans are intelligence. What can be as close as possible to that and what we can do with technology. So then early 2021, we had our first MVP ready, our first digital human teacher that taught learners, and the results were really great. They thought she was human-like. They liked interacting with her. Some of them find it quite surprising. Wow, I'm talking to someone and they can answer my questions in sort of real time, and I'm really having a good experience. And they found her trustworthy and warm, and yeah, they really enjoyed the learning experience. And from that moment onwards, we really continued to obviously build on further. And maybe Dave, this is where you maybe want to chip in and continue from where we left off at that moment in time.
Absolutely, and I also know that this is a tech show, so I'll come from a tech point of view for the audience and the listeners. So, in essence, in 2020, early 21, we had scaled to about 11 countries in 1 year. We were a traditional digital training provider, as you would do, using an LMS and Zoom online. And the main pain point here was we could not scale the teachers, as Pauldy mentioned. So at that time, we had built our first AI digital human teacher. So we are talking about avatars, that's, real time, that speak, not like a synthesia that just generates a video. And at that time, we had supervised models that did this. Now, the thing with supervised models is it's very good to create one lesson or two lessons. It's laborious, but it works. And it did work, from the refugee learners and to other areas. But we were also, one of the early API users of OpenAI, etc. And as the generative landscape kept improving and we are generative ourselves, now we have, AI that can really not master, but really play with language. And that has helped really boost this AI ability because it's not really modeling and labeling and supervised structuring of models anymore. Now it's very generative basis. So with that, this month as well, we are going to be working with 4 universities to teach an entire module. So that's about 9 lessons completely by our AI. And that's because of this generative capabilities, which in essence is the ability of a machine to predict the next word or the next sentence for some of our listeners.
Okay. So maybe a question on the before arriving to this organization, which you set it up as Ottoman Institute. What was personally you were doing it? Where did you study? What was your career? Because the point is how you arrived to this one. What maybe both of you.
Yep, of course. I think Pauldy, you wanted to start. Go for it.
Sure, yeah. So I did my PhD in cognitive neuroscience, looking at memory and how people do memory, but also multitask. So lots of things we do in everyday life. And that was very fascinating. But then I started working when I became the president of the Student Union, where Dave and I actually met in London. And we started to work very much on student experience related projects and thinking about how can the learning of so many students, that is an everyday journey, how can this further be improved? So we did a lot of work locally as well as on a national level in the UK to improve student experience, whether that is about their assessment, whether that's about their um, their teaching and learning journey, whether it's about studying from home. Any aspect of the learning journey was something I was very interested in, especially coming from a neuroscience background and psychology background. I did then do become a lecturer and senior lecturer also in psychology. So I also have a lot of teaching experience. And as I mentioned before, I am an educationist and looking very much at every aspect of a learner's journey from the beginning sort of to the end. So over to you, Dave.
Yeah, I think you have covered everything. But in short, we met at university, Brunel University, London. She was the president, I was the vice president. We worked on a number of projects together. One project led to the other, and then to the formation of the company. I think the only thing I can add is my original background before AI is law. So that's a little bit of a interesting switch, but yeah.
Okay. So now, who's helping you to actually design the curriculum or the lessons? Is there humans behind the scene, or are you using nowadays generative AI, not made 2020? So how you are getting the content in place?
Yeah, maybe I can start, David, and you come up. You can add to where we are now. At the beginning, yes, before generative AI was there, it was us, humans.
Mhm.
So we had a team that looked at our own. We built our own entire curriculum from start to finish, including interactive activities, engagement and learning. So not just someone teaching, but everything was very much engagement based, as well as an exam at the end, so to test the learner's knowledge. So that was built by a small team, and that was the curriculum we initially launched on topics such as employability and transferable skills training. That's where we started. But then, of course, we have now generative AI. So maybe, Dave, you can add to how we are now currently expanding our curriculum in a much, less time consuming way.
So, yep, of course. So, obviously, we have our own fine-tuned models. So, we can create our own lessons with our fine-tuned models. And at the moment, we could generate a 1 hour long lesson on, I would say, most topics, not any topic, within about 3 minutes. So, that's our standard time also when we work with universities. But the main thing that we focus on is essentially utilizing the content, information, and knowledge of these institutions. So what I mean by that is a lot of institutions have their own content. So digital marketing is taught differently in Imperial, is taught differently in Brunel University, London, is taught differently in other universities. So what we do is we extract the information from that content. For those of you who may know, a part of this technology is rack-based technology. So we drive from the content of that and use our language models to teach around it. So that's really our current scaling piece. And last Thursday, this is because of interest from one of our partners in the US. We were experimenting with books. And now we are being able to do the same thing in under 15 minutes for 500-page books. It's still not there. It's not something we would push directly to an institution yet, but it's very promising what we saw last week.
I think great work. So now maybe Dave, continue to some technology aspects on. So which large language model you're using? Is it some open source or your proprietary, or which one?
So we have our own.
Just if you want to share it, it's not if there is something hidden.
No problem at all. We have our own proprietary fine-tuned models. So we keep fine-tuning our models because we have our data from, from 2020, video data, audio data, rich data, apart from textual data. In our initial days, we were fine-tuning based off of Llama 2 at the initial days. Till now, we fine-tuned, but we have different sort of combinations of open source models, etc. we use, because end of the day you don't want to retrain and reteach your language model English and maths, right? It's about really fine-tuning. But we are not really into the wrapper business or the GPT builder business. We're not that, because to be honest, that segment is going to get into a knife fight very soon, because it's almost like everybody has the same electricity, and it's just about trying to, on top of that, layer yourself and become unique. So we are not getting into that pool at all. We want to maintain our own sort of direction.
So then you must be using some cloud provider to host it somewhere, right?
Yes, yes. So we use cloud providers. At the moment, we are not with only one. So we use
Okay.
both GCP, AWS, or
Mm.
rather, and Microsoft. So we don't
Mm-hmm.
have a sort of promissory or a very special relationship with anybody yet, although we are speaking to some people. So let's see.
Right. All right. Right.
Mhm.
And from a let's maybe go to Dr. Pauldy and she can answer us. How the privacy and ethics are playing in this area? Because when is there any challenge on it, or how you're addressing those areas, especially ethics from a teaching point of view, where humans were teaching and now being an AI as an avatar. So what do you see? And with you're in UK, so you just had first AI summit. So if you can elaborate something.
Yeah, sure. This is a very important question also for us, and it's not something that gives a black and white answer. It's something that we have to keep looking at on a regular basis, and something that may also change on a regular
Mhm.
basis. So we have to be very adaptable. Um, of course, we can put parameters in place and flags in place when it comes to the content that the teacher obviously is teaching. That's a lot of obviously in our control, but you never know
Mhm.
what a user is going to say or do. So there can be, obviously we have built in some, let's say, red flags in case
Mhm.
certain topics may be asked about or certain things may be said. So that's one thing, of course. And then it's one of the things we actually do a lot is for the products that we have is research based development. So
Mhm.
we work very closely. I lead the research team, but also together with marketing as well as with Dave and all the developers. We look at everything from a very close research angle. So this can be from, well, that's more Dave's area, what latest models can we use, and that's very much on the tech side. But then also about the user design, how the user perceives it, and we very closely work with our users, new users, current users, to see what are their thoughts, what do they think, and ethics is also one of the topics we discuss there, to see, what do they perceive ethics here, because there is no boundary yet. There is nothing that say if you cross this line then you're wrong. So because it's still very much a gray area, we really like to continue talking to our users, the people that interact with our product, to see what are their thoughts and what can we do to ensure everything is, let's say, on the right level, however we define that then. So it's an ongoing process, I would say.
Yeah,
And
Dave.
yeah, and if I can add to that, I think more from a product side now.
Mhm.
Obviously, again, ethics is wide. It's not only from a student point of view. Obviously, standard checks and balances, no personal data, etc. is those limitations
Mhm.
are put in place. But you have more fine-tuned variations, right? When you're extracting from content, etc. Who owns the final IP and things like that? It's not clear. As you
Mhm.
said, UK had the first AI summit. I think last week UK also said that they will not be putting regulations in the AI as of now because it might stifle innovation. So we are in a sort of green zone there as compared to the other side of the pond, which is EU. So let's see how that goes on. But another aspect here, ethics, safety, let me just bring up this whole hallucination point. That's why also we use the extraction methodology where you're extracting, let's say, from a 10-page PDF that a university has or is trying to teach. Your hallucinations fall down to, by 98% because it's coming from there. On top of that, we allow these institutions, let's say the head of that course, etc., one dashboard. So whatever the AI teaches, they can also in real time edit it. And it's not always editing because of hallucinations, because that's reduced. It's also because, let's say, 7 examples came out even from that material, but now just last week you had a better example which you want to share with your students, so you can just edit that in and out in real time, and the AI will do as is necessary. So these are a lot of the things that we are doing, but it is a open ocean at the moment, so we just have to keep figuring out.
Okay. So, okay, I got it. Now, maybe as you have already done the fine tuning, you're doing the RAG, and then you're using the existing lectures. So, on which stage you're putting the humans in the loop, as the teachers or instructors or the professors, maybe? I mean, and you, as you said, that you're taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes timeline to just extract the lesson and then prepare it. So who's deciding it? Yes, this is the right now final lesson for this
The
grade.
So the answer for that is it's the institution's teachers or the leaders themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like they use the platform, they get some handholding, but they give the materials, they check the materials, they decide to deploy it or not, they edit the materials. So they have the final control where the initial heavy lifting is done by the AI. So
Mm-hmm.
creating an entire lesson, question and answers, lesson plans from the content, they check it, give it a tick, and then the teaching is done by the AI. And again, they get all of the data, how the students are interacting, etc., at a very personal level. So the heavy lifting is done by the AI, but the keys are literally in the hands of the academics, if I have to call it that way.
And how the markings are what is happening? Is it by the teachers or still with
No,
AI?
the grading is done by the AI because the AI also creates based on the content that's been taught. It also
Mm-hmm.
creates its own assessments. At the moment, we are focusing on MCQ, so multiple choice questions,
Mm-hmm.
short Q question and answers. We are working on scenario based questions as well because a lot of the time you have to do problem solving as a student. So that's something that will come very soon. And that is all automatically graded by the AI teacher. But again, you as the academic or the teacher, the educator, you can again check, okay, I would like, if the AI has a particular answer in mind, that would be the right answer, particularly for an open question. You can add some things like, well, if the student would, let's say, use a different word or a synonym, if they don't have to use, I don't know, 50 characters, maybe you want them to use at least 50 characters. It depends on what your own boundaries are, but you can let the AI mark everything. But you can have, again, as Dave mentioned before, you can have that almost like final say in it before it all goes live.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Pauldy. You took my first point. But another very important point, just to really compare what's happening here without really crossing any boundaries, is traditionally, because we are focusing on higher education right now, right? Universities. So traditionally, what happens in universities? The university has a matrix, right? That's what they're going to use for this year to mark. We can upload that to the AI. That's number one. Secondly, what used to happen with teachers? Using that matrix, let's say there are 300 students, teachers would get 6 weeks, or the lecturers would get 6 weeks to correct this. Once they have done that, then a sample of that, so let's say 10%, would be moderated by somebody else and they would say it was done correctly or not. In this case, you upload the matrix, your 300 papers are done in 6 hours, and then again the same person can moderate it. So from a safety point of view, it's the same thing. In fact, you can actually jack up the moderation to 50% if you wanted to, because you've just saved god knows 1000x of time in the laborious bit. So yeah.
Just one thing to add there, it also, the quality remains at the same level. Now I know there is this person who checks when it comes to seeing whether the people that marked it did it correctly. But if you have to mark 50 papers, 2,000 word essays each, after number 25, you're getting a bit tired. You have the same essay over and over again. It's very difficult for a human to keep that same level of focus, attention. You probably just want to get it over with, to be honest, because there's a lot of words you need
Okay.
to read and look at.
Yeah, I got it. And there are benefits to it, but I will challenge now a couple of questions, so you need to be ready.
Yep.
See, and I echo to the benefits which you are mentioning it. And as I just, 6 months back, I did my master's in AI from University of Bath. So
Mm-hmm.
the same way, 6 to 8 weeks. After the 8 weeks, next, and the teacher professor is going to take another, 4 or 5 weeks to mark it. And then when 80, 90 students are submitting it, the challenge you have mentioned it, that's true. And there are tangible benefits which you're getting it. Now, how the universities are maybe a general perception is that it's mean we don't need the professors, we don't need the teachers. Where it is heading towards? Are you getting any challenge on it? That it's not me, or maybe in the universities where you are started working on it. So how you are seeing being working with the universities? Maybe one by one, you can share any thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I'll start this one and I'll just warm up. Pauldy, by the way, is a senior lecturer at Brunel University, London as well. So she's on both sides of the coin. So by the time
Yeah.
she's warming up her answer, we say absolutely not. So the
Mm-hmm.
primary focus of why we built this is twofold. The first one is we've seen so many people who actually don't get access to teachers, right? So it's for that. But let's leave that out of this discussion because we're talking about higher education. The second one is what we call teaching and learning 3.0. So what happens is you go to your class-based learning, which used to happen online as well during COVID, right?
Right.
We tell you to still go there. We actually want you to go there. That's your interaction. But when you finish that, the only things you could do outside of that was you get your notes, you get your books, or you get a LMS platform where you can watch videos and text.
Right.
Now, for the first time, that learning journey outside the classroom is interactive. So using that AI, you get stuck anywhere in your notes. You don't understand something in a video. You can tell it to rephrase. You can ask deeper questions. Give me different examples. Ask scenario-based questions, which is interactive. So that's why we say it's a teacher in your pocket, but it's not a teacher that replaces the human teacher. We are saying that everything else that sat outside the classroom or that teacher interaction is now also teacher-like. So that's the first part of that. Second part is when you're taking the labor out of, not all of it, but some of the labor out of the teacher's work or the lecturer's work, you actually free them up to have better chance of one-to-one interventions with students, to better understand which students have problems, to better engage students even in higher education, to really show them research, etc. Because most of the time it's not only higher education, even in schools, the two things that any academic says is I've got marking or I've got a syllabus to finish. Cut that out, then they can do the good stuff, right? Sorry, Pauldy.
No, I'm laughing because, especially, that second point, when you're talking to any academic, that's exactly as they say, oh, no, it's marking period. I can't do anything. They're all marking lots of papers, and that happens at least 3 times a year. Usually the January, the winter exam period, the May, the summer exams, and then the resit. We have to forget about those. So a lot of the time academics spend on marking papers and then preparing. Oh, I have a lecture tomorrow. I also need to prepare. And, you don't want to recycle just what you did last year because time moves on. And depending on the topic you choose or you teach, you may have to actually upgrade your materials quite a lot. So when looking from an educator's point of view, from the staff, so to speak, I think when one uses an AI, you can free up so much time and actually spend time then, on those students that are maybe that you can see from the platform or, from your own LMS that are not engaging so well. So why is that? And having more tailored interventions with those students to ensure that, they may not drop out of university, or you can support them with any maybe academic struggles that they're having, maybe something personal is going on in their life. But at the moment, if you have even if you have 100 people in the cohort, how can you ensure you can give attention to all of these 100 people? It's very difficult to do because you have to keep a tab on all of them. And I think when your time is freed up to do so, then I think the learning experience for all the students in the classroom in the end will be much better.
So then the free time which you got now as a teacher, what you're going to do?
I would, really look at the data that either my own LMS gives or what the students are looking at when they're working with the AI teacher at night. When I'm not there, I can't, they can't ask me any questions at 11 p.m. on a Saturday evening or now on a Sunday afternoon. I'm not available for them, but, an AI teacher is still there to help them, guide them, revise them. So when we are done in the classroom, I can actually do very interactive learning. I can sit with some of them one-to-one. I could actually book meetings with them in the time that I was normally preparing or marking. Let's discuss things. And maybe I have to do some personalized one-to-one tutoring. Maybe someone is struggling with the writing and I can support them with that. I can really find out what it is that's going on, apart from saying, 15% of the cohort has not very engaged very much. Okay, now what am I going to do with that? Because I don't have time.
Right.
And just one line here. This is completely, on a side note, just to further strengthen this point. I'm also a governor at a secondary and high school in Uxbridge, United Kingdom. They recently started DPR system, which helps give them very personalized understanding of each student. They're at the highest level of schools. Again, we just had the inspection where this, utilization was shown as a key factor. But more importantly, what I hear there as well is, and you've heard a lot of the times, I'm a teacher, I'm a lecturer, I'm working the Sunday evening to catch up. There's actually a lot left to do for academics, which they can't do because of these things. It's not that you stop them. What what can you do with your free time? Trust me, they have so many things that they could have done. It just keeps coming back. Yeah.
True. All right. So maybe Dave, a couple of questions on the technology side. As you are ahead of several organizations on the implementation of generative AI and even putting it into production and then enabling it or bringing it to the even to the people that they're going to start using it. So what are some of the top challenges you faced it and you want to share it? Because as our audiences are more audience or more technology folks, it can help them. And as you know that now generative AI is on the top of the agenda for everyone. So maybe some of the context will help them to get ready.
Yep. So I'll talk even from an ecosystem standpoint.
Yeah.
So first of all, I think previously the hardest thing to crack was language. Now generative
Right.
AI has cracked language, right? So that barrier is gone. So currently, I think in this space, specifically in the teaching space or the education space, the hardest thing to crack is the system, right? I'll give an example. Just go to ChatGPT, a paid version, not the free one, and go and say, act like a teacher, ask me questions and teach me. It will teach you. Very easy to do. That's not teaching. Getting that right teaching and learning system that actually works is probably, it's human computer interactions. That part is the main recipe in the tech side of it. Obviously, the design and the UI plays a role. That's number one. Number two is understanding from the market. People fear hallucinations. RAG helps us work with universities to listen to the market. That's number two. Number three is you're going to have further problems in two ways. You might get subpar products. I'm not saying we are fantastic, but we are very careful with what we roll out. And I'll give you another. So I'll just touch on this. Pauldy might touch on it after this. We also have a product for children called Teddy AI. It's an early beta, but very slow rollout because we have to be careful. So Pauldy might touch on it. But coming back to this, it might give you subpar products because with GPT Builder, it's no longer APIs. You've just removed the tech layer as well. You've just said anybody can do anything, right? With this. So they will use these sort of GPT builders to further fine tune and do a better version probably of ChatGPT 4, act like a teacher and ask me questions. And that may or may not be the right way of doing, but more importantly, wider ecosystem as a whole, that might actually even bite us because somebody who experiences that first will be like, that's substandard. You're probably doing the same thing. So as companies working in this space, we need to be careful. As users, you need to be careful. But yeah, it's an evolving space.
Okay. Dr. Paul, you want to say something or?
Yeah, I just want to add to what Dave mentioned about Teddy AI because I oversee Teddy AI product development, and I think it's because it's for children. It's tailored for the children between the ages of 4 and 9. So of course you need to be much more careful. It's a conversational AI study bear, so study buddy, but it's in the form of a teddy bear. And of course you need to be much more careful here what the topics are that you can talk to the children about. But the parents, they can have an influence on this as well. They can have an impact and they can say to Teddy on their own parent dashboards, Teddy, next time you interact with my child, please practice the capitals of the countries in Europe. Because, maybe your child doesn't know very much, or the multiplication of 2, or the vowels in English, or whatever it is that you feel your child is lacking or they're struggling with, Teddy can implement that. So I think that is one of the key things here, and that there is still that parental control. But one of the things I would say, what you mentioned, what we can do is a lot of research. We have spent a lot of time, particularly if I'm thinking now about Teddy. We've been to schools in the West London area. We've literally gone there for afternoons and afternoons, sat with the children, gave them the device and say, okay, go, play, just play. And they often start asking questions, or am I allowed to click on this button? You're allowed to do anything you want. Just go and play. And we observed everything and made notes. So we only could do, 2-3 children at a time, and very carefully wrote down everything they did, what they clicked on, what they didn't understand, the language. It was not just the language they would use, but everything from the UI to the content. And that took a lot of time. It took months. But I think that has helped us really understand where some of the pitfalls might be. And it's not just your standard, user testing. It was really, really very much in depth. And I think that's why we may go a bit slower with Teddy, but I think it's paid off in the long term. If you have your hand up.
I just wanted to, put that back into context in one line. Compare this, and we've been doing research for 3 years and some other organizations, right? Compare this to now somebody coming and saying, Hi, your name is Teddy, act like a teddy bear, and talk to children as a primary school teacher would do, and teach them ABCD, multiplications, and rainbows, and have an open attitude to answering questions. You know how wrong that can go, right?
Mm.
So,
Right. Got
yeah.
got it. Got it. So now maybe Dave, to you as you're managing the technology, and as your solution is heavily, it's like an engineering product. Okay. So how you are managing your life cycle, development life cycle, and ensuring that from development to reach to a production, you put place all the frameworks or the ecos or the, the subsets of whatever you call it, phases, that it makes sure the quality is in place and you're not caught on just calling the APIs or the LLM and then you just get and move on. So maybe that's very important for two reasons. It's not about how you are doing it. Maybe if someone wants to do it, not on an education or any other product which is based on large language models. So they can get some input from you.
So thank you for that question. So see, firstly, we need to start from a high level point of view on this. And the high level point of view is that you really need to focus on what some people would call as the R&D team. And you really need to have two distinct identities, one in the R&D aspect or the innovation aspect and one in the product aspect.
Mm-hmm.
There might be interplays between the two, and for instance our machine learning lead sits in both, but he has to wear two hats, right? So there would be interplay between the two, but in essence the identities of these two have to be kept very separate. That's very important. And obviously they feed into each other. The innovation here feeds into product, the product feeds in the feedback back to the innovation team, right? But that identity has to be there. And in an industry that has a 30% plus CAGR for the next 10 years, anything can happen. And we need to be innovative all the time. And this is when I even talk to investors, right? It's just not about building, it's not that you've built your model now, go and teach 10,000 people. We are innovating every single week. For our innovation cycles, our sprints are actually weekly. It's that quick because things change. Obviously, the larger sprints can require more, but we have weekly sprints for that. And, again, just coming back to that, from a traditional sense, if you're talking about SaaS businesses, etc., having an 8% R&D budget seems to be all right. Here, we're talking about 40% because innovation is your drive to success, and it is also your driver of survival. Mm-hmm. So I think that's how I manage the sort of, high level tech team.
And how big your team is? Is it remote? Is it all in UK, some remotely, or how is it? I mean, just for if it's something confidential, feel free to pass on.
Yeah. So I'll just give you a high level detail on that. So our team sits in 6 countries.
Okay.
I wouldn't touch on which countries, but we're in 6 countries, and we are about 20 of us at the moment.
Okay. And how the response is, as you mentioned, a lot of universities are using it, and you started approaching other universities. So is it from a commercially making some numbers or going into right direction as per your expectation, or how do you see it?
So at the moment, our core focus is with 4 institutions. We are going to. This is going to come out, from our media branch in exactly 9 days, actually 28. So look out for that. So I won't tell any names, but our institutions are across 3 continents at the moment. We are in price discovery phase.
Okay.
So it's not 100% commercial one, but on average, when we are working with institutions, it's about 500 students each. So from a product standpoint, from a usability standpoint, and it's not a pilot per se, it is an actual delivery. We have all the right tick boxes. It's just the price discovery that we're working on for early next year.
Okay. And maybe from a research point of view, as you're gonna take up new universities, you're gonna take the new lessons on board, and then once this curriculum is developed, what's next for you guys? I mean, this is just looks to me a one-time activity. Okay, I'm done. Or how you see it? And that's coming back to maybe Dr. Pauldy, the question.
If in my case, what we are looking at very much is further improving the student experience whilst they're interacting. That's one. So looking at how long have they interacted, what did they struggle with, what did they like, what they not like. We also have obviously our own methodology of getting feedback from the students to see all these different aspects, apart from looking how they interact with the product from the from the tech angle, to see what data we gather from there. So that's one thing. The second thing as well is, okay, they experience things with us, with our AI teacher. Now, what can the universities do with that information? So we also sit back with the institutions to see, okay, this was the data, this is what it says, this is a report. Now let's see, what can you now do as an institution yourself? So when you have the students in the classroom, is there anything they can further add to the learning experience? So I see it in my case, from a research point of view, very much two-sided. What can we do? But what can we also feedback to optimize that journey?
Yeah, and I'll just add two more to that. There's actually a lot. So as she said, we are research first, so we actually have a pretty long pipeline of vision, at least, and some shorter ones. But two other ones that are of real interest to us is multimodal. That's very, very important to us. So we are really looking at as effectively reading and understanding text, like text, video, images, and graphs, and also at the same time reproducing that. So while you're learning with our digital human teachers, the examples are 100% again AI made. Now, the efficacy there is of a lot of it's very challenging, even DALI, etc., if you're looking at them. So that's a good innovation and a research curve that we're working on. We're challenging ourselves. So that's number one. And number two is, again, also from a point of view of domain sort of agnosticity. I'll just leave this a little interesting part for the listeners. If we are to survive and grow, agnosticity means today we can already power with AI Unity games, tomorrow AR and VR, maybe day after tomorrow we're talking about Neuralink level. So because it's the same thing, but you're looking at going into different domains and empowering the system from those domains.
All right. Thank you so much. Maybe, Dr. Pauldy, some concluding remarks, if you want to share.
Yeah, well, it was great talking to you today. I loved interacting and discussing where we are and where we may want to be in the foreseeable future. If any of the listeners are interested, please reach out to us. You can go to our website, oiedu.co.uk, or you can find us on the relevant social media channels. But do give the teacher a go yourself to see what it really is like. We can talk a lot about it today, and we have done, but go and try it out yourself and see what it can do for you.
Thank you so much. And Dave, if you want to share something.
I just want to thank you for having us. I hope we have been able to add some value to our listeners. And also, if you do go to our website, you can always get in touch with us and contact us. And if you want to really talk a little bit more about the tech or the research, just take one of our names to the attention of. We directly still do speak to people who reach out to us, although it goes through the admin. So we will be very happy to speak to you. So please feel free to do that, or just connect with us on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and the lessons, because I work in a technology space, and a lot of organizations right now are working on use cases which are how to embrace generative AI into either I am in a human capital management or ERP or manufacturing, in any customer support, starting from those sentiment analysis to, or maybe some legal, as you said, you were studying, right, as a lawyer. So the legal documents and or maybe policy documents, and where all these, the top one, which is hallucination or RAG, how to use RAG, PDF documents. This is basically an everyone's agenda item. If you go to any IT organization or maybe a business organization, this is what they're trying to achieve it. And the good part is that you guys have already done it. I mean, you're ahead of the other people. I'm not talking about from an education point of view, I'm generally from a technology point of view. I'm just trying to pass the message. And that's important that, okay, your case, you have done it. These people are using it, universities are using it, and there are practical, achievements is there. So it's not that, okay, whoever is thinking from the audience that, okay, you want to go ahead and generative AI and how I can embed the policy documents. So that's what I see as a learning out of this our discussion. And apart from it, you have a very innovative idea, and I can relate to it when I was studying in university, right? So forums, and then interactive, and I'm asking questions, and then UK was going on this strike, right? University strike
Yeah.
union, and,
Yes.
and we were struggling all those days that So that's from that angle, your solution is quite impressive.
Just remember the number of lessons you had to miss because of the strikes. Maybe an AI teacher would have helped there.
Yeah,
Right?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but we also need to be
Okay.
sure that whatever they were doing, the strikes, that was also need to be
Absolutely.
required, because that was John when banned. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much again, once again.
Thanks for listening to the OTech Talks podcast, and be part of Tech Talks at otechtalks.tv. It's a turf to share ideas, insights, and innovations.